Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Films and Stuff podcast. I'm an over-enthusiastic Ethan. You'll soon hear about why. Joined by an equally but more self-contained Pete.
I'm not underwhelmed or overwhelmed. I think I'm just whelmed.
I don't know what I am, but definitely I'm excited to talk about what we're going to talk about. So without further ado, let me introduce the topic. And usually we give a post-emptive spoiler alert. It's more like a mea culpa, like, by the way,
forgot. Yeah.
Sorry, spoilers. This time, let's just do it up front. There's going to be spoilers, right?
Yeah. Spoiler alert. 100 times over spoiler alert.
We are going to talk about season 2 of Loki, the God of Mischief.
Also, just the MCU overall. In the midst of Loki now, I think the penultimate episode aired last week and the finale airs this coming Wednesday or Thursday. And then on top of that, on Friday, The Marvels comes out.
Oh, no way. Is that right?
Yeah.
This weekend is Marvels.
It is, at least in my market. I assume it's going to be the same for you.
Yeah, Pete, I'm so excited by this. Quick question. How long is The Marvels? Do you have any idea? My bum has not recovered from Killers of a Flower Moon. That 3-hour, 26-minute plus commercial extravaganza really did a number on my lumbar. I
found out that there was one small independent cinema chain here that was showing it. I don't know how they got it. After your review, I was just like, all right, I do really want to see it, but I think I'll just wait. I'll wait for it to hit Apple TV in a couple of weeks and I'll watch it there.
I'm so proud of you for making that decision. Anyway, this is about Loki, God of Mischief, season 2 on Disney Plus. Let's start off with, how excited were you did you enjoy season 1? I think we both did. How enthusiastic were you for season 2?
So of the initial crop of Marvel TV series, I thought Loki was one of the strongest. I thought it was one of the most well fleshed out. But in terms of fan service, in terms of where Tom Hiddleston and Loki fit in the universe, at least at that point going forward,
it had a purpose. It explained the multiverse, right?
It did a reasonably good job of explaining the multiverse. It did a reasonably good job of explaining the concept of how the different multiverses interact with each other. Yeah. Again, also in conjunction with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. The role of the TVA, most importantly, the role of Kang the Conqueror, who I thought was underbaked in Ant-Man and the Wasp in Quantumania.
We're going to have to talk about Kang eventually. But yeah, I think that is a good holding statement.
I thought season 1 was very good. I thought Tom Hiddleston was excellent. Sophia DiMartino.
Sylvie.
I thought she was amazing in season 1. I thought she was absolutely fabulous. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, everyone else, all the supporting characters. Of course, I was a big fan of Owen Wilson. But I think season 2 has kind of been a little all over the place. And I don't mean that as a pun, even though that is a pun.
So I've watched 3 episodes of season 2. And I guess the thing that I'm struck by is I'm fine with the entertainment value. I think it's very good. I see Loki doing Loki-ish things. I see Mobius and, his good on-screen rapport with Hiddleston. I'm not really seeing where this is going from an MCU perspective, because I'm expecting that they're going to take this and I think they're going to remove Kang. I think they're going to somehow take this as the opportunity to scrub Kang from MCU because, as we know, that dude has a lot of legal problems, and I think now he's kind of not really going to be the center of what MCU is doing anymore, right? Also because of Ant-Man kind of bombed.
Yeah, so I think Jonathan Majors is facing a lot of issues in terms of his personal life. We don't know exactly what's going on. And of course, we're not legal experts to a limited extent, especially on this. But regardless, I think Disney has in general been very clear that it likes its stars, both villains and superheroes, to be relatively drama free. And they will not hesitate to either cut you out or move on without you. And we've seen that in the Star Wars universe, and we're going to see that, I think, in this MCU universe now as well.
I think there's two things working against Jonathan Majors. I think the first is that his legal problems, especially for Disney, they're really unpalatable. But the second part is that it makes the decision easier for Disney because the reception to Kang has not been super great. You know, like Ant-Man, Quantumanium really kind of bombed. And I don't think that Kang really caught on as the big bad. I mean, Thanos was like a really formidable big bad. Everyone kind of like got behind, like, whoa, Thanos is so powerful. He's got a clear motive, agree, disagree. But like, Thanos was a good villain. I don't think Kang came through like that in either season 1 of Loki and certainly not in Quantumanium. So I think, to be honest, from a business perspective, Disney's kind of saying, hey, this guy's got some legal problems. We should get rid of him. But it makes it a lot easier for us to get rid of him because now we can just kind of like scrub the thing that wasn't really catching on with audiences anyway, right?
On paper, I agree with you. And in fact, probably in practice, if that's what happens, like if he is finally cut, which again, this is all speculation at this point.
It's all speculation at this point.
That would probably be the easiest justification because no one wants to say he's not working critically for us, so we're going to sack him. It's far easier to say, well, he's been accused of all of these heinous acts in his personal life. We as a brand don't want to be associated with that. So we're going to drop him, and they come out looking like, oh, well, you know, they're the defenders of the moral right.
Right.
Again, as much as I love Disney, they're still a corporation. And at the end of the day, the bottom dollar is what matters. It would be a far more complicated story for them. Were Kang a far more successful character? Were Quantumania far more profitable?
If it was Chris Evans, if it was Iron Man,
that would have been a huge issue for them.
Then they would kind of be like, can we really write this character out?
We're going to work with him kind of like what DC did with Ezra Miller. Which is, you know, we're going to work with him. We can't sweep this under the rug. Let's, you know, we're going to put him in a program. He's going to say all the right things, and we're going to put a leash on him.
Yes. Here, I think it's the combination of those two things. I would also say I would not expect Disney to just cut him out. I would expect that, similar to what we kind of see in season 2 of Loki, that Kang is not going to be erased. He's just going to be kind of minimized somehow.
Yeah, I think he's going to be marginalized. To your credit, even though you haven't seen it, and I know you don't mind spoilers, so I'm going to go ahead and say it, we're seeing that already. Because in episode, I think it's episode 4, we see old-timey Kang die. And I get that this is a multiverse, and I get that there's an infinite number of other Kangs out there. But he was supposed to be the one who was like the father of the TVA. He was supposed to be like the guy who was the eventual successor and, you know, the one who quote unquote remains. Does that happen anymore? I don't know. Was that a deliberate part of the story? I don't know. Will he come back in episode 6, the finale? I don't know. It seems like Loki, which was at least season 1, was a build-up not just to the TVA, but to Kang the Conqueror. And what the effect was of killing him in season 1 was that it was going to unleash all the Kangs from all the different other universes.
Right.
In season 2, it seems like Kang is almost an afterthought at this point. Because the entire focus on season 2 has been on saving the TVA. which is
Right.
imploding at the moment because Sylvie
Right.
killed Kang at the end of
Right.
season 1. The first 5 episodes have basically been all about Loki running around like a headless chicken trying to figure out how to save the TVA. And at the end
Right.
of episode 5, he thinks he knows the answer. That's where we are now. It was like a pretty good cliffhanger that way. But I mean, I'm looking beyond episode 6, even if he saves the TVA. Is that something they want in terms of bringing Jonathan Majors back or Kang? On a more practical basis, because Kang is a character, it's not an actor, right? The one good thing about the MCU, and I think this is the one thing that even directors like Quentin Tarantino had a problem, is that the star of the movie is the character, not the actor. You could theoretically replace Jonathan Majors with another actor, have him be from another multiverse, right? Just like how we saw the female Captain America in Doctor Strange 2.
Right.
But then you really have to go all in on the fact that Kang is going to be the big bad at the end of phase 6, 7, 8, or whatever it's going to be. Is that something Marvel is ready to commit to? We don't know where Marvel stands on that right now. And the reason we're saying this, and the reason this comes up, because Ethan sent me an article a couple days ago, which was a bombshell for me. In fact, I thought it was some kind of like really late April Fool's joke.
Yeah. The summary was MCU is thinking of bringing back the original Avengers, which is Black Widow, presumably Chris Evans as Captain America, and Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. You know, Pete and I talked about this. An article like this, I think, is sent as, what do you say? Like
a bellwether?
Yeah, like a bellwether. Good word. It's like a bellwether, just to kind of see what the online reaction is going to be. There seems to be some truth to it, and it makes sense for MCU, which is really kind of at a, I don't want to say a crossroads. It sounds a little bit dramatic, but definitely I think MCU is self-aware enough to realize that they're going down a path which is becoming complicated, fragmented, and not everybody is remaining on the bandwagon, you know, because of those things. And I think they're trying to gauge, should they continue to go down this path with kind of he who remains as the big bad, whether it's Jonathan Majors or someone else, or just kind of in reference to him? Or should they try to kind of like bring back the old Avengers or recapture the magic and go for kind of like some low-hanging fruit? This sincerely means that there's a little bit of panic within MCU. Maybe panic is a strong word. They've got a great franchise with so many characters. They'll always be able to print money. But just in terms of recapturing the magic, I think they also realize they're not really on the right path with what they've done in phase 5 now, right? Phase 4.
Something like that, yeah.
And it's not really clear where they're going. Ever since the end of Avengers, they've kind of struggled for what's the future? What other disaster can they have within the multiverse that will capture everybody? Or should they be telling kind of one-off stories? We'll probably get a lot more next week, I guess, when we see the Marvels.
Yeah.
That should tell us a lot, I would expect. But right now, I think that the instincts of MCU are probably correct, which is everyone loved Iron Man. Everyone loved Captain America. Everyone loved Black Widow. Why not bring them back? It'll be a complicated story for sure as to where they are, what multiverse they're in, and how they survive. It will be a very much older Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and Black Widow. I mean, they're not where they were, 10 years ago. And it's a short-term solution, right? Even if they can squeeze out 3 more movies with these guys, eventually that is going to end. And they're going to have to move on from that core group of folks, unless they're just going to AI them forever or de-age them forever, like we're doing with, Indiana Jones. But it seems like that's going to come to an end. So is it a short-term gravy train? But I think it also identifies the real angst that they're having about He Who Remains. One, is Jonathan Majors in or out? And I don't think they know that from a legal perspective or from a PR perspective. 2, even if they had that question answered, do they actually want him in? The critical response to him has not been great. Like, not him as an actor, but just as he who remains
as a character.
As a character. Again, I use Thanos. No one really like rooted for Thanos, but he was a very clear villain with a very clear purpose and goal. He had very clear powers, right? And He Who Remains is not really at that level in terms of everyone recognizing him and accepting him as the big bad villain. So I think there's a lot of indecision on the part of MCU in terms of how things are going to be going forward. Usually I have a solution. I don't have a solution this time. Do you?
It's too late to implement the solution that I would have had. But I think that
that's right.
If you have to look at Thanos level threats, right, which is what I guess the point of these, at least these cinematic movies are, every few phases is a build up to a team movie where they have to defeat a big bad. The first 3 phases focused on the build up of the classic Avengers team, the cinematic Avengers team anyway, to defeat Thanos. And I guess now they want this new Avengers team to defeat Kang. And Kang is theoretically that level. He is theoretically that powerful, that advanced. He could be that one. But if not him, you have to work backwards and say, who could you replace as a villain to do that? And I can only think of realistically 2 people, maybe 3 at the moment. I can think of Doctor Doom.
Yes.
I can
Fantastic
think of
Four.
Magneto. Excellent. And I can think of, this is really going out there, Galactus. So Galactus is this giant planet-eating alien. He sends out the Silver Surfer to scope out planets, and he literally eats the planet and consumes their energy. In terms of world-level threats, those are the 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. I also thought, I love Kate Blanchett. I thought she was criminally underused, although I thought she was used very well. But I thought she could have been used better.
And Hela.
In Hela. I thought Hela could theoretically be it because she's effectively the goddess of death.
Yeah.
So I thought she could be the big bad or a big bad of that. And that would allow Chris Hemsworth to continue his Thor run.
One of the things you could do if you were inclined is you could use Loki and He Who Remains in a Jonathan Majors situation to basically have kind of like a big blow up at the end where they destroy TVA, they destroy He Who Remains, and everyone basically gets like transported back to like an old timeline, right?
Right.
And suddenly Hela is back and Thor has to battle her again, right? So Loki and Thor go back and there's Hela again. Thanos is back again. Now there's this. You basically use like some type of an explosion of the TVA and He Who Remains, and everyone gets kind of sent back into like a different timeline, you know? So now Iron Man is back and he's got to face whatever, Mickey Rourke. Chris Evans has to go back and fight the Winter Soldier again. You just kind of like throw everyone back. And then Strange is kind of like the guy who circles back and he's able to kind of telepath to them and say, hey, you don't remember this. This is what happened in the next 10 years. But then there was this other thing and we all got reset and everyone kind of comes back. And then the MCU says, let's rewind it. Let's play it all over again, you know? Implement the X-Men all over again. And now there's going to be Thanos is coming back again. They're going to have to battle Thanos. In this world, Thanos is with Galactus, twice as strong. But the Avengers are also going to have X-Men, and the Avengers are going to have, I guess, a Fantastic Four.
Or
that kind of works for me. Like, that'd be exciting.
Every villain has their own core team of good guys that fights them, right? So, like, Magneto is X-Men, Doctor Doom is the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And very few of them are like world level or, you know, all of the MCU super good guys level threats. One other one who's got a similar power set to Kang that could naturally fit is Apocalypse.
Who's that?
Apocalypse is considered, at least, and again, I'm probably going to get raked over the coals for this, is considered the first mutant ever. And he was an Egyptian. He is the MCU version of Dracula, which is to say, all vampires come from Dracula, all mutants come from Apocalypse. And he's like this next level bad guy who's not just physically super powerful, but he's got like a bunch of different mutant powers and abilities, and he can travel through time. Somehow they could mash him up or replace Kang with him. In terms of power set, he's the closest that I can think of. And that would be a phenomenal way of backdooring the X-Men into the MCU. That's the problem, is that how do you introduce the X-Men or even the Fantastic Four into this established universe? Because it doesn't make sense, right? That you have a Thanos level threat, and where were the X-Men the entire time? Mm-hmm. Where were the Fantastic Four the entire time? They kind of explained it away for the Marvels, right? Remember the Marvels, they said, well, we're not supposed to get involved in human level events, no matter how bad it is. It was a really shitty excuse.
That was the Eternals.
Yes, that was the Eternals.
That was the weakest cop-out. Like,
of course, it was terrible. It was a really terrible cop-out, but for all their faults, at least credit to them for addressing that elephant in the room. It could have been so easy for them to say, like, oh, you know, we were powered down because we're all robots, or we were off planet.
It just so happened we were on holiday that week.
I don't know. I just find that replacing Kang is not an insurmountable task, but the longer you wait, the more dicey it gets, because no one is going to want bait and switch at the last possible second. I would much rather say stick to your guns, flesh out Kang, and even if you don't want to use Jonathan Majors, we've already seen at the end of Quantum Mania, there's billions of other Kangs. They don't all have to look like Jonathan Majors. Get another actor in there and use Kang, because again, Kang is a formidable threat. And if I remember correctly, Kang is actually a descendant of Reed Richards from far into the future. So that's another way of backdooring the Fantastic Four into this universe.
If you're not going to blow up Kang or the whole TVA, then I think you should keep Kang, but keep him in the background. His name is He Who Remains. Just keep him as he's doing this or he's manipulating that. Keep kind of the statues and the carvings of him, but let's not ever see a live action Kang again. Keep him in the background.
Or maybe he's an underling for Apocalypse or for somebody else.
Are we making it too complicated? That maybe we just need multiple storylines. We need to embrace the true multiverse and be like, look, in this universe, we only have X-Men. In this one, we only have the Fantastic Four.
Kevin Feige did not convince Disney to spend $700 billion to acquire all the other X-Men characters and all the other different franchise characters to keep them apart. You don't spend the kind of money, effort, and time that they've spent going so far as to cooperating with competing studios like Sony so that you can have the band back together, but then playing in different rooms.
Who did Disney buy X-Men from?
They bought Fox.
And where did they get Fantastic Four from?
Fox had X-Men and Fantastic Four and Blade, but Blade, the rights reverted back to Marvel because they didn't make a movie. Universal owns the rights to Incredible Hulk still. And
oh, really?
Yeah, it's complicated. That's why we never see a standalone Hulk movie. We generally see the Hulk as a part of team movies for that reason. And then Sony owns Spider-Man and the Spider-Universe.
So basically, the only ones not owned by Disney Marvel are Spider-Man and Hulk right now, right?
They're the only ones left. Everyone else is under the Disney banner.
And all this happened when Marvel was going through its bad time in like the 80s, and it was just selling off characters left and right, right?
They almost went bankrupt in mid to early 90s.
Yeah.
And to save the publishing company, they sold the licenses in perpetuity to a bunch of different companies. Blade was really the first successful Marvel movie.
So you don't think they can ever buy Hulk back from?
I'm sure they could. I'm sure they could work something out, but it would just cost some ungodly amount of money because even though the character may be relatively minor, because he's the last in the collector set, his value goes up.
Yeah, right. And Spider-Man, Sony will never get rid of
Sony
Spider-Man.
will never let that go. I mean, Kevin Feige has a better chance of buying Sony as a studio just to get the Spider-Man license and then dumping the rest of the studio than he does to get them to sell back the license. It's a money-making machine for Sony.
Yeah. How much of a blunder was it to sell Spider-Man?
It's not a blunder. It was a consequence of the company's going broke. These are the intellectual property assets we have. We have to do something to keep us alive. And ultimately, remember, all merchandising still belongs to Marvel, which means Disney. So Sony only makes money off of the movies. They don't make any money off of any of the merchandising.
I don't know where things go from here, but definitely that article shook me a little bit because it indicated to me that even Marvel is not really buying the direction that it's going. That's not entirely based on Jonathan Majors. It's based on kind of the last few movies, right?
You've hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of people will be quick to point the blame and the finger at Jonathan Majors, but you don't get to this point because of one actor.
It's. I think Quantumanium was the one that really was the killer.
I actually think it wasn't even Quantumanium. I think it was like a string of bad TV bets.
Which ones are bad? WandaVision was kind of the first, right?
Principally on paper, thought it was good, but like in execution, I wasn't super happy with WandaVision.
Especially as the first. It was too strange to be the first one.
Although I liked it, maybe I didn't like it so much, but I did like what she did with it. I thought Ms. Marvel, it didn't do too well. Captain America and the Winter Soldier didn't do too well.
Yeah.
The only ones that I liked the first season of Loki. I'm meh on the second season of Loki. I didn't mind Hawkeye, but Hawkeye was also panned otherwise.
I view Hawkeye different from Loki. Loki to me is really Marvel trying to advance the story. Secret Invasion. That was trying to advance a story. Secret Invasion was terrible.
Awful.
Loki is really trying to advance a story. Hawkeye was just, let's just do a Hawkeye series.
Yeah.
It didn't really change anything.
It introduced the new Hawkeye.
Yeah.
She-Hulk, I thought was horrendous.
Oh, She-Hulk was awful.
I couldn't finish it.
It was just bad.
I loved Moon Knight. I was really looking forward to Daredevil, but Daredevil, I believe they're retooling the entire series, Born Again. I think they stopped filming production, obviously because of the strike, but even before that, and they're taking these strikes as an opportunity to retool. They kicked out the previous showrunners. They've hired new guys in.
Oh.
They've completely revamped it. Like, it's not looking good. Everything's kind of been iffy on the TV side.
Again, when you look at all those shows, all the other MCU movies had a very similar look and feel. Like, you knew you were going to go to a serious action movie that was going to have some levity, and it was going to kind of like advance a larger plot. MCU shows, they've had really divergent feelings about them. Help me with the right word that I'm trying to say. She-Hulk had a much different vibe. Like Loki,
genre.
Yes, Loki absolutely feels like an MCU movie. That could kind of be a movie, right? It's the same way. She-Hulk was totally different. It was kind of whimsical and funny and had like a social...
Almost like a sitcom.
Yeah, it was not really what you would think of as an MCU. Moon Knight, again, Moon Knight was very different because Moon Knight was a little bit darker, more serious. It had the split personalities, a little bit of humor now and then, but generally it was pretty serious. And also it dealt less with sci-fi and more like kind of the spirituality side. Ms. Marvel was a little bit more like aimed at a younger audience, coming of age, am I coming to grips with my powers type of thing. They were also different, which makes a little bit of sense to appeal to different audiences, of course, but I think that's the problem that we have with the MCU television is that there was just like this lack of consistency. As a result, we watched some, we didn't watch others. We're a little bit patchier on catching up with the entire MCU universe. Secret Invasion was miserable, right? We hated Secret
I
Invasion.
couldn't stand it. And that was the one that had the best potential, to be honest.
In theory, Secret Invasion should have set the stage for really the new big bad. No more Thanos. Now it's actually on Earth.
Exactly. And we don't know who the bad guys are. It could be you, it could be me, it could be anyone.
And some of the Avengers could be bad guys.
Yes.
Like that should have been setting the scene to like, this is the next real battle. Now it's local. It's on Earth. And we don't know who is who.
I get a little worried. We've got this early indication for the Marvels. Like there have been a lot of memes out about like empty theaters and things like that. And I think it's because a lot of people just like to crap on the MCU, but B, also on the fact that all three of the Captain Marvels have faced some kind of controversy. Whether it's earned or not is irrelevant.
What's the controversy with the three Marvels?
Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, she got a lot of hate after the first Captain Marvel movie because like
why?
Her PR and her press appearances were an absolute disaster.
Oh, really?
Oh, they were an absolute disaster. She came off as arrogant. She came off as wholly unlikable. She came off as I am woman, hear me roar, which was not really a thing in the MCU because it was never about gender in the MCU. It was always about the characters. No one thought that Black Widow was a weak character because she was a woman. I actually thought she was one of the better characters because she wasn't just a capable fighter. She was also super competent. She outsmarted Loki. She was kick-ass. It had nothing to do with the fact that Scarlett Johansson is a woman and the others weren't. Brie Larson, whether she meant to it or not, made it look like I'm the best because we're women and women are the best. Again, I don't know if she did this or if that's how just it came out. It brought gender into a conversation where it wasn't really about that ever before.
Yeah.
The right wing and then the ultra incel community and like those guys in the comic book fandom ran with it the extreme direction, right? Her PR was a disaster. Ms. Marvel, again, a lot of people were just like, well, they're pandering because the character was created to satisfy gender quotas and, ethnic quotas kind of thing. Again, I don't believe that to be true. I really like Iman Vellani. I thought her portrayal of Ms. Marvel was fantastic. More importantly, I don't think it's a bad thing that we're getting to see more South Asian representation in the superhero world. Anyway, the point is that people are hating on the movie for the wrong reasons. They haven't seen it yet. We don't know what the story is like. We don't know how it sets up the next phase of the movies yet. However, for whatever reason, people are already shitting on it. And I think they're shitting on it because it's three women versus it's genuinely a good or genuinely a bad movie.
Have you seen the South Park meme?
Enter the Panderverse?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I saw the trailer for it. But yeah. Right. And they blamed Kathleen Kennedy for a lot of that.
They blame Kathleen Kennedy, which actually I'm all for blaming Kathleen Kennedy for anything and everything. But in this case, I mean, they're singling her out. I don't think this is specifically a Kathleen Kennedy problem. She's got her other things that she's, responsible for. But I think that South Park meme is, that's a good bellwether also for how things are being viewed, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
you said it right. Black Widow was a superhero. She wasn't a female superhero, just like Captain America wasn't a male superhero. They were just both superheroes, right? And I think when we get back to that, Black Widow's sister, she's just super abled. She's not a female super abled or male super abled. They were just superheroes. And I think when we get back to that, it'll be a healthier MCU.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So like, I gave Ms. Marvel and Iman Vellani the benefit of the doubt because I saw it the way I think they intended to see it, which was she's just a teenage girl who gets these superpowers.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the far right took it the other extreme, which was she only got these powers because she's a Pakistani American Muslim teenager. And I'm not saying they're right or I'm right, I'm wrong, they're wrong. That's not for me to say. I took it for the way I think it was intended to be. But I can also understand where a lot of the other sides are coming from. There have been times where I was just like, okay, I mean, you're clearly doing this to pander to a certain demographic. If it doesn't take away from the movie, that's fine. But if it's going to, hurt the movie, that becomes problematic.
You and I said this a long time ago. I'm going to forget the movie, but we were saying one of the things that we experienced with Avengers was that every Avenger had their own standalone story where we saw them develop their abilities.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always smooth. And one of the things I think that we found, I can't remember what movie it was. It was like the female Iron Man. Was it Ironheart?
Ironheart, where she all of a sudden, she puts on the suit for the first time and she's kick-ass.
And also because this isn't to be ageist, but Robert Downey Jr. was a very well-established kind of scientist in his like 40s or something. He was mature is the way to do it. And I think that's why we accepted Brie Larson also as Captain Marvel, because she was a very well-decorated
Air Force pilot.
Right. And I think those characters, the same thing where we've seen a backstory on Black Widow. When you have, it doesn't matter if it's a male or female, you've seen the backstory in terms of how they've developed their abilities. There's been a little bit of struggle. It hasn't just been, oh, well, I flipped the switch. I was a kid yesterday. Now today I'm a superhero and I can fight the most powerful superheroes immediately. You need to have a little bit more ramp up for them. And I think that's where some of that comes from. Even Moon Knight had a long ramp up to him becoming comfortable with his...
Almost the entire series was ramp up.
Yes. So I think we had a problem with Ironheart. I think a little bit with Ms. Marvel. Okay, look, I'm buying them as a character, but give us a little bit of build-up so that we can see the person becoming comfortable with their powers. We just cannot insert superheroes and immediately expect them to be on par with the folks that we've seen across 15 different movies, practicing, coordinating, becoming experts.
It's kind of like the new Black Panther, right? She takes the root and she puts on the suit and all of a sudden she's able to take on anybody.
You know what? Thor. Jane Foster, who's dying of cancer.
Yeah.
If you've ever met a clinical researcher before, not someone that overnight can put on a suit, wield an axe, and fight the strongest spirits in the universe. Yeah. And that, I think, was part of the blowback on Jane Foster, who should have been the most accepted of the MCU characters, right? Lovely story.
I mean, I love that we get to see her be a nerd about these things. I don't know what my catchphrase should be, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I thought that was classic Marvel humor.
Yes. But she's not as strong as Thor.
No, and forget about the strength, but in terms of fighting ability, it would have been so much more effective if we saw her make rookie mistakes while she's doing all that stuff.
Correct. The problem with, I think, MCU is that they perceive that as a sign of gender weakness, that I don't look at it as gender weakness. I look at that as an experience issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a reason why 22-year-olds fresh out of college aren't all of a sudden C-level executives just because they know how to read a balance sheet.
But I don't think the MCU has treated females unfairly. No one has ever rejected Black Widow from the Avengers.
Okay, forget about her. Yeah. Even Haley Atwell in the first Captain America movie, she's a kick-ass spy. We understand that and accept that for her. Nakia in the first Black Panther movie, same thing. No superpowers, but I believe her. When she's shown on screen as a capable spy, I believe her and I'm rooting for her. Not because she's a woman. Not because she's supposed to be his girlfriend or whatever it's supposed to be. Not at all.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh,
Evangeline Lilly.
That's the best one. Evangeline Lilly, the best example. She was training her entire life for this. She was 100% right to be upset that Scott Lang gets to be the guy who puts on the suit instead of her.
That last movie is just such a disappointment. You and I have always talked about this rule. Where was their vice president of common sense saying, guys, thanks for letting me screen this movie. It's not funny. Who thought this movie was funny? When you watch the second Ant-Man and the Wasp, man, that was non-stop funny. Disappointing. So anyway, this episode is somehow about Loki. No, but I mean, it's about MCU. And the whole point of this was, where is MCU going? And we're not sure. And MCU, again, by virtue of this article, floating the idea of bringing back key Avengers, also indicates that there's some real trouble in terms of where is the MCU going. And I think it's not clear cut that it's going to continue down the Kang path, that they may need to readjust some things.
And I still truly believe, again, the one thing about the MCU is that I'm going to go see it for the characters, not necessarily the actors. I'm not seeing it because Jonathan Majors is or isn't in the movie. Use that as an advantage, pivot, double down on Kang, but really focus on the character, actor be damned, change up the character. You've got the perfect excuse. You're in a multiverse. He's been killed in one of them. He's been killed in a few of them. Find another actor. There's no shortage of phenomenal actors that you could call upon to be the next King.
You are correct. Once we see the Marvels, we should have a pretty good sense of where things are kind of headed in the short term.
I agree.
I'm going to do a hot take. I'm prepared for the Marvels to not be a very good movie. And I say it because the first one, I don't recall as funny at all. And Brie Larson, who actually I really, really like, is not known for her cut-ups. I'm kind of prepared for this to be a very over-the-top, excessive CGI fight sequences that I'll middle through and it'll be like, okay, fine movie, all good.
I think it'll come down to whoever the bad guy is and the quality of the bad guy, because I'm looking forward to seeing all three of them together.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be some great moments of levity and humor coming from Iman Vellani, who's playing off as a human.
100%. You know what? I will give huge props to her. She has a very good self-depreciating sense of humor style.
That could play off very well because she's going to be fangirling over Captain Marvel. Yeah. There could be some really good moments of hilarity on that side. But really, in terms of the overall quality of the movie, it's going to come down to who the bad guy is and what the setup is in the long term. Normally, I prefer the movies to be standalone in the sense that there should be no overarching setup in the movie. Let that be done in the mid and end credit sequence. But in this case, I think this is a really transitory movie. I think Marvel's a bit rudderless right now. And I think that they need one, maybe two movies. Even if they're not phenomenal hits, they need the fans to get excited again. And fans aren't excited right now.
I agree, Pete. I really agree. On next week's episode of Films and Stuff, we will review the Marvels. We will break down the end of Loki season 2. And hopefully some of the questions that we've just been posing, we'll have a little bit of clarity on and answers too.
In fact, we'll give you a super preemptive spoiler alert for next week's episode.
All right. Pete, that was a good ramble. We got a lot out on MCU, a little bit out on Loki. I think the scene has been set for next week is going to be pretty big. If people want to agree, disagree, give us praise, give us blowback, give us whatever, get their 2 cents on paper, what can they do to reach out to us?
In fact, I think that's actually a good idea. Tell us what you think about bringing the original old school Avengers back. Tell us what you think is going to happen in the next Marvels movie. Tweet at us at F&S Podcast. DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. Email us your theories, aloha at filmsandstuffpodcast.com. Or as always, like this video, leave a comment below, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit that bell so that when the next episode of the Films and Stuff podcast drops, you'll be the first to know.
Pete, I want to thank you for your time and MCU knowledge. I'm definitely looking forward to next weekend. Thank you for your time, and everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Films and Stuff podcast. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.